Welcome to iRise Conversations with Joan. Welcome to iRise Conversations with Joan, where we discuss the journeys of people who have overcome adversity and achieved success in their lives. My name is Joan and Nwosu, and I'm the award-winning author of the book iRise, The 10 Secrets to Getting Up When Life Knocks You Down. Today, we have a remarkable guest, Dr. Alison Plaut. She has over 25 years of experience studying and applying Maharishi Mahesh Yogi's principles. She holds a PhD in political science, a master's in business administration with a focus on sustainability, and a master's in Maharishi Vedic science. This diverse range of expertise allows her to bridge the gap between consciousness, personal development, and global sustainability. Throughout her career, Dr. Alison has been involved in various projects that promote the development of consciousness worldwide. From New Zealand to Brazil, Guyana to India, her work has impacted the lives of countless individuals. In particular, she has dedicated her efforts to empowering women, helping them unlock their full potential and find greater happiness, success, and fulfillment in their daily lives. Welcome, Dr. Alison, to the show.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you for that great introduction. I was like, that sounds good.
I'm like, is that me?
Yeah.
How are you? Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. So let's go back to your personal journey as well. How did you get on this spiritual journey to the point where you've been following Maharishi Mahesh Yogi's principles for a very long time?
Yes, well, I was actually born into it. That made it easy. My parents, before I was born, moved to a community in Iowa. There's a town called Fairfield, Iowa, where there's a university called Maharishi International University. And it was basically a healthier outlet to the hippie movement. It was a bunch of people who were at the time in their early 20s who wanted to create a better world, create heaven on earth is what they called it. And so I grew up in this community where everyone was practicing transcendental meditation. I say I've been studying it for 25 years because that's the time I took it on as my own spiritual path, but it actually started much earlier than that.
Wow.
So I came into it rather organically, but it was when I was 14 or 15 that I realized this is something that's really important. Why would we achieve outer goals and feel empty inside when we could have happiness inside first and then achieve the outer success?
Mm-hmm. So you said this happened when you were 14. Was there a particular incident that happened? Was there, like, some people describe this awakening process as something, a life transforming situation that happens that triggers it? So what was it for you that made you decide this is the path?
It's interesting. There wasn't like a single flash. There wasn't a moment when I was like, oh, this is it. It was more of a gradual buildup over my whole life until then. I describe in the book how even when I was younger than that, on Christmas morning, when I would open presents, I would always be so disappointed, even if the presents were exactly what I'd asked for. Because once you unwrap a present, it's not eternal happiness. It's something that you'll enjoy for a while, but sooner or later, that something will become an old something that you're no longer interested in. It's no longer special. So around the time I was 14, 15, I was studying at a school that was called the Ideal Girls School, of all names. And we were literally referred to as ideal girls. So at this school, we used Vedic principles, meditation, yoga, in addition to a traditional academic high school curriculum. And I was in my sophomore year, and I suddenly realized I was studying physics, calculus at the time. I thought, I could become the world's leading physicist, and I still may not be happy. It's like there's no amount of studying that is going to lead to eternal happiness. It's a long and futile path through academic study. And so what can I do now to find happiness? And because we were studying Maharishi Vedic science and Vedic principles, I'd been taught that when you experience yourself, your own inner consciousness, and unfold that, you can know, do, and achieve anything. Who wouldn't want to be able to know, do, and achieve anything? So I thought, I'll take that first, thank you. And then I can do everything else, it's okay. Yeah. And I think it was also around that time my best friend in high school went home. So I was surrounded by many other wonderful people, but I didn't have that sort of constant companionship. And I was looking, I was like, wait a second, I've made tremendous progress at this school in a year, but I'm not happy yet. What more? I was very happy, but not to the level that nothing ever changed that happiness.
I hear you. And I love the analogy you said about the Christmas, unwrapping the Christmas present, that once you unwrapped
Yeah.
it, then it was gone. But I think in the world that we live in today, and I want your input on that, there's a lot of focus on things, on the
Mm-hmm.
external, and you already
Mm-hmm.
pinpointed that
Yeah.
inner peace and inner happiness is what is important. But we are too focused on acquiring things externally. And then when you got it, you're like,
Yeah.
well, yeah,
Exactly.
I'm not as happy
And
with that.
everyone has, in the book, I make a list of like, my beloved dolls from childhood are now in a plastic bin in the garage. The latest and greatest iPhone of 7 years ago is with a cracked screen and a grimy case, and I'm ignoring it. And like that, we all have lists of things that were so important to us at one time that now have no meaning, or, we're just indifferent to. And that's why this basic principle that I actually did learn as a child, but really came home for me around that age of a teenager, is happiness comes from the inside.
Mm.
There's no amount of outer success that will lead to permanent happiness. And that's, I think, part of the reason I called the book Be More, is even someone with a high degree of happiness, a high degree of success, a high degree of material abundance, if they're not constantly receiving more, sooner or later they're going to feel bored and dissatisfied with what they have. And so it's that human nature to always want something more.
Yeah, that is so true. Okay, before we get into how to become happy, because I'm sure everyone wants happiness, and again, happiness is different for everybody, what that means. But we'll talk.
Yeah, of course.
Before we get into that, you mentioned, the terms like consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned words like awakening, and globally, in the last couple of days, at least for me, I didn't know anything about any of this 10 years ago. But in
Yeah,
the
it's
last
true.
maybe 10 years, there's been this massive movement of consciousness, awakening. What exactly does that mean for, and it's still a very icky subject for a lot of people. Let's
Yeah.
get started on it.
Yeah.
I would just say it's a very icky topic for people. So, in your words, what does consciousness mean, and why is it something to be desired?
Yes, it's such an important question, because you're right that 30 years ago, almost no one was talking about consciousness. Maharshi was, but nobody else had even heard the term. And now leading researchers at top universities are researching human consciousness, human potential. So what is consciousness? You can look at the word itself. It has the word conscious and ness. So like a state of being is the ness, a state of being conscious. By that definition, you would think that it means that we're awake or alert, as in somebody in a coma or somebody asleep would not have consciousness. But that's not actually what I mean here. Someone in a coma or someone asleep would still have consciousness. Consciousness, as I'm using it, means a level of wakefulness, inner intelligence latent within each of us that can never be extinguished, is never sleeping, is never dormant, is always there, fully awake, only we may not be experiencing or tapping into it. And consciousness, by this definition, also is universal, meaning that not only do you have consciousness and I have consciousness, but the table has consciousness, and the chair has consciousness, and the mountains outside have consciousness. Everything is consciousness. And for that reason, and this is what I think makes consciousness particularly intriguing, because everything is consciousness, there's no way to step outside of it and say, we're going to measure it objectively, we're going to observe it, because we all are a part of this same field of consciousness. And what I love about that is it means we're all interconnected, that there's no separation between you and I, between what we think of as someone who's very different than us in their beliefs or way of being. On the most fundamental level, we're all one.
Easily described, but difficult for a lot of people to accept, because that's not what do you mean we're the same? What do you mean I'm not an individual and you're somebody different? But I love what you said, that globally the definition is the same.
Yeah.
And there's been this movement, I want to call it movement, because it's really like everywhere I go, everybody now is talking about this consciousness. Everyone is curious about, how can I tap into this? How can I be conscious or awakened? And then there are people who just completely reject it only because they don't understand what it is.
Yeah.
So I really want to encourage people who maybe you say, no, I don't know. Ignorance is bliss. Well, ignorance is not bliss. What we're talking about today is how you can really have that bliss, that happiness that you truly desire. And it's not from external things, it's internal things. And part of it is you being conscious. again, we're all conscious. You can't really separate from it. It's already there. So it's you being more aware and tapping more into that.
Absolutely. And an analogy I like to give, because consciousness, when we experience what I'm calling pure consciousness or transcendental consciousness, it's a physiological experience. It's a different state of our nervous system functioning. We're using more of our full brain potential. Scientists estimate there seems to be some discrepancy, but around 10 to 20% of our full human potential. 10 to 20%. That means we're leaving on the table 80 to 90% of our full human potential. So the analogy I like to give is imagine going through life with only one or two fingers. How difficult common tasks would be. It's just the same. Our consciousness is there, ready for us to use, but we're not tapping into utilizing it. It's like trying to, use a phone with only your thumb. It suddenly is very difficult.
Can't even imagine that one. It's not too difficult, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I know you say that you were born into this, so you've had more time around it. You have a master's in Vedic science, so you've gone in deep. You're an expert. What advice or what is the starting point for people who maybe hearing this for the first time? They're curious. They're like, maybe that's something I want to learn. I want to try. How can they start that process of awakening to their consciousness?
Absolutely. Well, the simplest and most effective way I know of to experience pure consciousness directly is through transcendental meditation. And this is a very simple, natural mental technique that allows the conscious mind, our busy mind full of thoughts, to settle down to quieter and quieter levels, to a level of stillness, quietness at the source of thought. It's a field of peace. It's a field of happiness. It's a field of harmony. So when you practice transcendental meditation, it's not like suddenly, oh, I'm conscious. It's more, oh, I feel some inner peace. I feel greater happiness. I feel more grounded. It's a way to tap into the latent power within each of us. And it rarely happens as one giant flash. It's more of a gradual experience of something better day by day.
Okay.
So that would be step one, is learn transcendental meditation. And I will say that there are apps that are much cheaper out there than the cost of transcendental meditation, but there's scholarships and payment plans. So no one should feel limited by the cost, because the offering it gives is so unique and so powerful that it's worth it. But, anyone at any income level can work it out. And if not, come to my website and send me a message and I'll help you figure it out.
There you go. So you have no excuses.
There we go. Exactly.
And I love that you really simplified it, because people think for something to be so good, there's gotta be this huge transformation. There has to be this big number of steps I need to go through. But you're just saying to start with the transcendental meditation, and it's not as difficult. It's not as difficult to get access to. And for
That's
those,
it.
if you're complaining, I'm going to include her link in the bio. So go to her website and go.
There we go.
Connect with her, and you can get started on this journey.
Exactly.
So life, like I've been through a lot of experiences in life, and I learned a lot of lessons along the way. So for you, what are some of the really, really profound lessons that you would say you've learned in your life so far?
Yes, that's a great question. The whole book is basically that, my most important life lessons. So there's 18 of them in the book, but I'll share just one or two now to condense it down. One, I think of the most important lessons is to always listen to your intuition, to listen to that voice, to that wisdom within that's saying, do it this way, even when intellectually it doesn't make sense. And it's something that, honestly, it's probably the lesson I've struggled the most with, because it is so easy to overrule that wisdom within that's guiding you, do this or do this or do this. But when you learn to listen to that intuition, nature, the universe, your own latent intelligence opens doors and windows that didn't seem to exist, and it creates new, greater opportunities. So that I give an example in the book, which I think is amazing. And, one more way the universe is so special is that in nature, anywhere you find a poisonous plant, you will actually find the antidote to that poison growing right near it. Because wherever nature provides the poison, it also provides the cure.
Wow.
And I feel like that is such an important reminder for us in life, that whatever the challenge, whatever the difficulty, the answer is also right there. The solution of how to get through is also right there, and the resources are built within us to accomplish whatever that is. So that would be the first most important lesson, is listen to your intuition or your inner wisdom. And another one, which is probably almost equally challenging, is just let go. That's one whole chapter is on the idea of letting go. We all think that we need to work harder or work smarter or just do more and go, 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 and we'll accomplish it. If we just do a little bit more, we'll get there. But really, many times we give our best and then we have to surrender. We have to, in the Christian tradition, there's the saying, let go and let God. It's the idea that and in the Vedic tradition, it's the same idea that you give your very best, you put an impulse out, and then you see what nature organizes. You see how life unfolds. And I make the important distinction that it's not that you should give up in the middle. It's not, letting go is not the same as giving up. Giving up is, say you're in the middle of an important meeting or in the middle of a run and you're like, oh, this is hard, I'm done. That's not what letting go is. Letting go is giving your very best, but then realizing that you can't control the outcome. You only have control over your own actions, your own feelings. And on the basis of that, trust God, the universe, nature, whatever you want to call it, to create something greater. And in my own life, I've seen again and again that when I'm able to let go, something better than I could have possibly imagined comes out.
Wow. Those are two fantastic lessons. And honestly, those are topics like I feel like I have these topics. I feel like I had this conversation just last week. I have these conversations all the time. And like,
yeah,
it's not as easy because we've been taught from a very young age, listen to your gut, listen to your intuition. But there's just so much noise. So able to differentiate between which one is your ego mind just telling you based on whatever beliefs, narratives, what are conditioning life, and which one is that pure intuition that's trying to guide you. It is not easy.
No, it's not.
Once you familiarize yourself with the voice of your intuition, then it gets easier because now you know the difference. But in this chaotic world where people have been through so much adversity, it's very difficult for people to start to listen to their intuition. I think that's where the whole meditation also comes into play, where you can quiet the mind a little bit so that you can hear more of that inner or higher self that's trying to guide you on the right path. Not easy. Hey, we're trying to make it sound easy. It is not easy. I still struggle. My ego is constantly like, go. But
everyone's does.
The facts say that, So you're more focused on what you've been told externally than really going within. So thank you for that. The second one about letting go. This is a conversation I had for sure 2 weeks ago. And you described like stopping in the middle, but there's also the concept of acceptance. And this was a conversation I had with one of my friends 2 weeks ago about the difference between acceptance and surrender. So I was very happy that you used the term surrender, because a lot of people use acceptance thinking that they've surrendered, but they've not really surrendered. You're surrendering to the belief that the universe is going to give you something even greater than you expected, outcome, as opposed to acceptance that, oh, this is my life tough, there's nothing I can do about it anyway. But you're not believing that the universe is gonna do bigger and better and way more than you could ever imagine. So again, these are not easy concepts, but I do want to encourage people, again, to give your best, but detach from the outcomes and don't try to control the things that you really can't control. Like you said,
exactly. And on a microcosm, this idea of just letting go, I was just reading some brain research the other day, and this is new to me, that apparently the prefrontal cortex, which is the front of the brain, is like the CEO of the brain. It's where we have our higher decision making and our greatest intellectual ability. It needs a break after a certain amount of time. And when you find yourself dawdling and wasting time, it's because your prefrontal cortex needs a break. And if we don't give it that break, it doesn't regenerate, but we tend to waste much more time. So that particular research was showing the power of giving yourself regular breaks to allow yourself to rest, recuperate, go out into nature, take a nap, do something that allows your brain to fully rest rather than just pushing through. And I would say the same is true when you practice transcendental meditation. It enlivens the entire brain cortex and it gives it deep rest. It gives both body and mind deep rest. And that allows it to rejuvenate, to have more creativity, more intelligence. And that's why, for decades now, people have said that when they take 20 minutes morning and evening out of their day to practice TM, it adds so much more value to their day. Is not losing time, it's actually gaining time. And this new research is one more way of saying that when you let go, when you give yourself a break, it actually adds more value to your day.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. There's so much. I'm so happy that alive at this time, because there's just so much happening. Like every day, there's just so much happening within this space. And I really want to encourage people to get on. It's not a trend, it's not a bandwagon. It is the reality, it's the truth of how we can live better lives currently, today, right now. You can change your life today. You don't have to grind. You don't have to do more, keep doing and doing and doing and doing, hoping to get more. No, that's not really how it works. You need to go within to the inner source and start to fix things from in there. Let's talk a little bit about human abilities. So you mentioned that we're able to do way more than we can imagine. But for some reason, there's just stuff holding a lot of people back, limited beliefs, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Why do you think that happens? Because I'm not sure. Well, maybe you can explain, but why does that happen? Why do we always think of ourselves able to do way less than we can actually do?
I would say stress, and not only stress in our current environment, say stress from work, but deep-rooted physiological stress, even going back generations, stress we're born with. When we are born and we go through life, our nervous system itself is accumulating stress. And if we don't have a way to release this stress, then it just compiles. And suddenly it becomes even more demanding. They used to say, I don't know what the percentage they're now saying, they used to say 80% of disease is psychosomatic, meaning stress related. So if there's a way to release the stress, and it's not just that, oh, you need to sort of mentally manage stress better, it becomes embedded in our physiologies. And you need a way then for the body to get deep rest to release that stress. When we sleep at night, we reduce some of the stress. Some of the day's stress, that's what our brains are doing. It's cleaning out stress, basically. But when you have a way to rest even more deeply, to allow the nervous system to release stress more deeply, then intractable problems suddenly have solutions. Then what we thought was impossible, oh wait, maybe it is possible. So I personally I think it's wonderful to look at, what your limiting beliefs are and try and remove them. But I think in many ways it's simpler to release the stress at the source of that, hidden in our nervous systems, even in our DNA. And by releasing that stress, those limitations, physiological blocks, then suddenly our thinking is clearer. Suddenly there's greater opportunities open to us.
Okay. And I'm guessing TM is one of the ways to release that stress.
Yeah, it is. And then I talk in my book about other ways. There's another principle that Maharishi has that I have heard a lot circulating in the common, discussions in the last 10 or 20 years, which is what you put your attention on grows stronger in your life.
Yeah.
I've heard it other ways, like where attention goes, that grows.
Yep.
So that idea that in addition to releasing stress, we can choose where we put our attention each day. We can put our attention on progress. We can put our attention on happiness. We can put our attention on the best we see in ourselves and others, or we can put our attention on the problems, everything that's wrong we would like to change. Both will grow with attention. If you spend all your time complaining, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, you're going to see more and more things that are wrong. If you start saying, this is good, look how amazing this is, suddenly that will grow as well.
So that's similar to the power of positivity, like thinking positively.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't have to be 100% of the time, because,
not an easy concept either, because again, we're complainers by nature. We've been told always look at what's wrong and try to fix it. So the focus is always on what's wrong, as opposed to focusing on the positive. So for people who are not, I know awareness comes into plays a huge role in this, because if you're not aware, then again, the 80,000, 100,000 thoughts are just happening automatically in your head.
Yeah.
So what would be one way you can recommend for people to switch that, to stop focusing on the things that they don't want, focusing on the negative things, and now be more positive focused so that they can create those in their lives?
Absolutely. Well, there's a couple exercises I give in the book for this. One that I think is very powerful is take a situation where you really felt it was unfair, it was wrong. It can be a situation in your own life or in society as a whole, but it's better to do it first in your own life because it's more intimately familiar. You can look at it from more angles and see how that situation that you thought was so wrong or so bad or unfair, how either A, something in your actions actually created that situation, or B, what other benefits you actually got from that difficult situation. What good came to you from that situation that was so wrong? And it doesn't mean that it wasn't wrong or unfair. It could still have been wrong and unfair, but there could also be something good in it. So start by finding one thing good, then find 10 good things, because there's always good to be found in any situation. And it doesn't mean that we won't all continue to go through challenges, difficulties, trying times, and be faced with even in situations that are unjust, unfair, or downright wrong. But we have the power to see the good and the positive even in those situations, and to create more good from that.
Mm-hmm. And how possible is it to, because it's easier to look back and say, oh, this happened to me last week, and I can see the positive.
Yeah.
You know, everything is working for you, not against you. But what about when you're in the moment, when something is currently happening to you right now?
Yes.
You're like, at that moment, it's not as easy to say, okay, let me just pause. What are the positives?
Yes.
So
it can be challenging in the moment, for sure. For anyone. But one very, very simple technique to do in the moment when you feel angry, upset, overwhelmed, because every emotion has a physiological correspondence. Our emotions don't come out of the air. They come out of the functioning of our nervous system and our brain physiology. Is put your attention onto your physiology. The same concept of where attention goes, that grows. Put your attention onto your physiology. This is a technique taught by Maharishi originally, and Dr. Tony Nader has also taught it on Facebook Live. And it's so simple, but so powerful. When you put your attention on your physiology, you might feel some sensation somewhere, some heat, some tingling, something, anywhere. It doesn't matter where. Maybe it's in your knee, maybe it's in your foot, maybe it's in your head. Mm-hmm. Just leave your attention there. And after a few minutes, it'll change. Maybe you'll feel something somewhere else. Maybe it'll disappear entirely. But what you'll find is after doing that for a few minutes, that sizzling upset or anger or overwhelm disappears. And suddenly you feel more calm, more peaceful, more grounded. And it doesn't change the situation or the source of that feeling, but it gives the nervous system a reset to allow it to dissolve some level of friction or stress in the immediate moment.
Okay. I like that. That's a simple enough exercise. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure.
Okay, let's talk happiness, because everyone seems to be in pursuit of happiness. So how can we, first of all, how would you describe happiness? I know you already touched on the outer and the inner happiness. What is happiness, and how can people attract more happiness into their lives? Or how can people just be happy in general?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting topic. Happiness itself has become a hot topic in recent years because there's a whole idea of, there's a whole, we'll call it a movement or, trend towards wanting more happiness. I think that's been in human society forever. But then there's also a sort of pushback of, people saying you have toxic positivity, you can't just be happy all the time. And there's a balance between recognizing that everyone experiences a full range of human emotions. There's how many hundreds of different emotions if you name them all, and happy is just one of them. But happy, contented, peaceful, blissful, however you want to call it, there's many of these emotions that bring so much richness and so much good to your life. So here's a few tips. We'll go with 3 of how to attract more happiness. One, I sound like a broken record, but I will say that when you experience the source of thought, it's a field of happiness. It's a field of greater charm. So not only are you using more of your full mental potential when you practice transcendental meditation, but you're tapping into a source of happiness that's already within. And the analogy, this is from Maharishi, is of happiness and bliss, because people think happiness, bliss is just like a concentrated version of happiness. What's the difference? Mm-hmm. Bliss is the nature of each of us. It's the nature of consciousness. It's always there within each of us. Happiness is the reflection of that. So you think of like the sun. Bliss is the sun. It reflects on a lake or a pond or the ocean, and it makes that look like the sun is there. That's happiness. So we can experience our own inner bliss reflected through a promotion at work, a new car, a great run, being in nature. Those are all reflections of what's already within each of us as inner bliss. It's just a way that we're drawing it out more and more. So one would be experience your bliss within, experience your own inner happiness. It's there, it's waiting to be experienced more and more. The second would be the topic we already touched on, which is appreciate, find the good in any situation. And it can be even in minute things. Spend even 2 minutes a day appreciating, say, everything in your immediate environment. Wow, this computer works so well, and look at this keyboard, it happens to be so clean, and wow, my glasses are so clear, on like that, just the little bits of appreciation. But just that habit of finding the good in even small mundane things starts to create that inner gratitude, which in turn leads to more happiness. And then the third thing for happiness, which is something I'm sure you've heard many people say, is do something to reach beyond yourself. Because when we reach beyond ourselves to help others, the first beneficiary is always ourselves. Suddenly we find more contentment, more happiness, more peace. So find the happiness within, appreciate the good around you, and then do something good for somebody else. And it can be something small or something big. It doesn't really matter. The idea is just find ways to reach beyond.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. Those are three amazing tips that I think everyone, even people who've been on this journey for a while, we can start to incorporate to increase the happiness. And I love your analogy of describing the sun and the reflection. Perfect. Bliss versus happiness. So let's increase the happiness in our lives using those three tips. Perfect.
There we go.
Perfectly described. Okay, so you mentioned a phrase or a term that I'm not too familiar with, and I think you called it toxic positivity.
Yeah.
When you're happy all the time.
Congratulations for not having heard of it. I have, only because I've been in this spirituality and wellness space my whole life, and even some of the people I grew up with complain, oh, it was toxic positivity, they just told us to be happy all the time. But I feel like that there's a really important distinction between toxic positivity and cultivating greater happiness and greater bliss in our lives, because ultimately everyone is looking for more contentment, more happiness, more peace within themselves, more feelings of I'm in the right place for me in my life, and I'm growing. Mm-hmm. And toxic positivity is just that like, say you come and you say, I have a problem, I feel terrible, I'm sick, this, that, the other. And I say, oh, just be happy. It's like, it fails to acknowledge the feelings and needs of the other person or to show any sort of compassion or empathy. But I think there is a power there is a certain moment, and each of us can only determine this within ourselves. There's a moment, even when we're going through very difficult challenges, when we feel unhappy, sad, depressed, any feeling of being let down in any way, there's a moment when we have a choice. It doesn't usually happen right away, but there comes a moment when that intense feeling eases up enough. It's like, oh, now I can choose to be happy. Now I can choose to find the good in the situation. So it's all a matter of choice. When we have the choice. When we don't have the choice, we're in the emotion. It's whatever is happening on the inside is what counts. But when we have the choice, then we have the opportunity to see the good, to create more positivity, and to find happiness.
Okay. That's like toxic positivity. And we're meant to be positive all the time, but I love that and explained it. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so let's talk about the work that you do with women. So how do you work with your clients? Is there a particular demographics of women that you choose to work with, and what kind of coaching or support do you provide to them?
Yes, I don't have a specific demographic. I would say the women I work with are women who are looking for something more in their lives, who are searching for either greater meaning or greater success or greater happiness. And of course, the first tool I give them is the one I keep talking about, which is transcendental meditation and its advanced programs. It's sort of the foundation of everything else we do. But then the idea is to explore and experience through exercises, activities, applications in daily life, how to find more love, more happiness, more peace, more success, because really they all go hand in hand. It's like pulling one leg of the table and the whole table comes. You can't be happy without also feeling inner contentment, inner peace, inner love. And likewise, life isn't an empty vacuum. It's not like I'm going to sit here and just feel happy and love. It's also about outer success, about meaningful relationships, about creating a better world. And so it's an opportunity to, when we work together, to find angles to do all of this at once.
Okay. So anyone who's looking for more and usually hits midlife crisis like me.
Yeah.
and you always know when you have that feeling inside of you that I want more, there's got to be more, then here is something that might be able to help you. So I'll be sure to include your details in the notes so that people can reach out. If you've been questioning, you've been doubting yourself, you've been like, oh my God, this can't be it. Well, now you have the answer. Yes, you can be more, do more, have more, whatever it is that you want in life, you can achieve it even better with the help of Dr. Alison.
Absolutely.
Okay. So finally, what advice do you have for people who are struggling, who may not be ready to go on this journey that we've been talking about? They're like, meditation, spirituality, not for me, but I'm unhappy and miserable.
Yeah.
One quick thing that they can do today to at least start to move them in the right direction for a happier, more successful life.
I would say there's two things then. One is that body putting the attention on your body that I mentioned earlier. That you can do for even 30 seconds and see how it starts to transform your feeling. Even if you're not ready to learn TM or yoga or meditation or anything, just do that. See how you start to feel better. And then I would say do something else. Make a point of doing something every day that you genuinely enjoy. It doesn't matter what it is, but something that you can't help it but feel happy. And that even for 5 minutes, just something that brings a moment of joy to your day. And those two things are the very first step to start to see what else comes. And that's enough. That's something I talk about in the book, is that you don't have to take giant steps. You don't have to transform your whole life. Even one tiny step, do what you can today, and that's enough. And then one day you'll feel like doing something more. Do that. But it's never that you have to make a giant transformation. It's step by step by step.
I think that's such a great lesson because we all, in this world of instant gratification, everything, they want the results today, you want to put in everything today. There's so much pressure to feel like you have to do all this 1,000 steps to get the transformation that you desire. But you said just do something you love, just start from there. I'm thinking I'm gonna shop every day going forward.
There you go.
It'll make me happy. And then see what you
do something that won't cause other harm to your life, though.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us today. Again, I'll be sure to include the link to your book and as well to your website so that people can reach out to you and really get the help to get on this transformative journey that can really enrich not just their lives, but the lives of everybody else around them and really get them to the point where they can be more, do more, and have more. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me, Joan. It's been a joy to talk to you and hear your insights as well. It's been a really fun conversation. So thank you and hope to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for listening in today. I hope that you really benefited from today's show and you start your journey today to an enriched, better, more successful, happier life. I'll see you same time next week on iRise Conversations with Joan. Thanks for listening.